everyone, welcome back to a brand new video today on the channel, and today I have to admit something to my viewers in which I have to say I may have messed up a little bit. I did a little bit of a miscalculation in terms of a video I wanted to make not 2 weeks ago, you know, when this topic was relevant and the movie was relevant, and now people don't talk about it because, you know, everyone's talked about it to death. But here I am, sitting here, and we're going to talk about The Exorcist Believer today. It's not like everyone on the internet has been talking about it, especially how bad it is. These reviews are not too favorable, and I know I don't trust Rotten Tomatoes. I, honest to God, forgot about this movie. I forgot that this movie even came out, to be honest with you. I completely forgot for 2 weeks, and then I kind of looked at my upload schedule and I said, oh, I didn't make an Exorcist review? That's a little weird. Today I'm going to be talking about The Exorcist Believer, but more importantly, I'm going to be talking about why this movie is one of the most unnecessary sequels I've seen in a while. But another thing before I get into it, I do want to say I am going to be spoiling a couple things about this movie. If you don't want really spoilers about Exorcist Believer, don't worry. I am going to give you warnings throughout the video, but I just want you to keep that in mind. But before I really sink my teeth into this movie, I really want to talk about what this movie is about, which this movie is about two families whose daughters go mysteriously missing one day after school, but miraculously return 3 days later, not remembering how long they were gone or where they went. But suspicions arise when the two girls start to act differently, almost like they're being possessed by an evil entity, which leads the family to seek help from the church and Chris McNeil, played by Ellen Burst, from the original Exorcist film back released in 1973. But before anything, and before I start absolutely tearing this movie apart, I did actually want to talk about one thing that I think this movie is actually pretty good with, and that's the acting itself. I think all the acting in this movie is extremely strong. I actually thought, for the most part, most of the characters were actually okay when it came to a pure acting point of view. I liked the father figure in this movie. He did a great job, and I also liked the family, and the daughters did a fantastic job in this movie. I can't recall their name right off the top of my head, so I'm going to put it on screen. But they did a really good job, and I didn't mind their performances throughout the movie. And I'm also at least happy to say that this movie captured the same tone as the original, where in that original Exorcist film, it is a little bit goofy, but it is a lot darker than you think. But it's a very serious movie with a lot of very serious consequences, and in this movie, they very much play it like that. It doesn't feel like a just giant jump scare fest. It doesn't feel like anything too goofy. There's parts in this movie that get a little excessive. But okay, why this movie doesn't work. And my very first point that I'm going to make, and it's the easiest point I can get across, this is literally just another generic Exorcist movie. Like, we get so many Exorcist movies throughout the years. I would swear we have like 100 of them at this point. There's always one every year that looks exactly the same opposed to the other one. And, you know, when it comes to the Exorcist franchise, the first Exorcist, released in 1973, is definitely the best Exorcist movie. And a damn good, like, really good horror movie, I will admit. But here's the thing, we live in 2023, and I guess the filmmakers looked at this and said, we want to make an Exorcist movie, but no one's going to watch our Exorcist movie if it doesn't have a really big name attached to it, or isn't a continuation of another really good Exorcist movie that came before. So they said, let's just use the original Exorcist movie and that brand, and we'll make a sequel to it. Like, it would have made money regardless. I don't really see the point of them making just another generic Exorcist movie that really doesn't have anything to do with the original, spoiler alert, which I am going to get to. This movie does have potentially a couple little interesting tidbits that they throw in. Like, there are specific plot points that are kind of interesting, I guess you could say, on paper. Like, the idea of having two girls being possessed and them almost having to, like, choose which one's gonna live and which one's gonna die is an interesting concept. Like, that is an interesting concept on its own. And there's also a lot of themes of all these sorts of different religions around the world and how all of their viewpoints and cultures and how they all view exorcisms. And there's this very specific point in the movie where they all sort of come together and you learn a little bit about all the cultures. And I thought that was a cool concept. But once again, this movie's just so friggin' generic that it doesn't know what to do with it. It was just a bunch of cliches that kept happening and happening and happening, and they didn't throw anything unique to it. There wasn't any style to it like that first Exorcist film, which I'm also gonna get to. There was just none of that. There was no style to it, there was no actual thrill to it, because in the original Exorcist, there's a lot of really effective scenes of thrills and suspense where they very seamlessly make really, really scary scenes. Like, I think for most people who've seen The Exorcist, we all remember the one scene in the hospital when Regan sees the demon for the first time. That scene is scarred into my memory. It absolutely scared the shit out of me the first time, which is hilarious because it's such a little thing, but that original film really knew how to deal with suspense. And in this movie they try that, but when they try and do something like that, it's a jump scare. Because of course it is, why not? It wouldn't be scary these days if it wasn't a jump scare. It could have very easily just been a very silent thing, just like the original film, but no. Let's just throw in a sound effect when the demon flashes on screen. And I also alluded to my next point, but this movie literally just exists because it's trying to take the name of The Exorcist, that original film, and profit off it. There's literally no point for this movie to exist. Like, it doesn't connect to the original film, or if it does, it's like barely. Like, they have like 2 characters from the original film. That's it. That's the only thing you get, so it doesn't feel like a genuine continuation, which makes me just question why the movie was made. Blumhouse spent over $400 million to acquire the license, and they really did nothing with it. Or at least I think so. They're gonna make 2 more of these, spoiler alert, which just... what more could you do with this dying franchise and this dying subgenre in the horror community, where I really feel like everything has been done with an Exorcist movie? I don't see the intention, because Blumhouse is very much trying to do what they did with their Halloween franchise, in which they wanted to make a brand new trilogy, starring all the old characters, making it for a new generation. But the thing is, and this is my next point, The Exorcist is not Halloween, but they're very much doing the same thing of what they did for Halloween, where they make a first film, and it's a reboot of a big franchise that's been dormant for a while. They bring back some of the legacy characters, and they try to make 3 movies, and they sprinkle little ideas here and here and here. Like, as an example, in the rebooted Halloween movies, you have Laurie Strode played by Jamie Lee Curtis. In that first film, the very first Halloween film, she was basically the only survivor of Michael Myers. So in the new 2018 version, she's very, like, battle ready. She's ready for Michael Myers, and she's very capable. And they do something similar in this movie, where they make Ellen Burst's character from the original film, which was the mother of Regan, and they make her like this super influential, like, I know everything about exorcisms, I've studied every culture in the world. So it's so stupid, because you see what they're trying to do. They're trying to take a legacy character and then just kind of make them a superfied, just capable version, which in Laurie Strode's case from the original Halloween actually does work, because in that original film, she was put through hell and back. She was stabbed, she was stalked by Michael Myers, and she almost died multiple times in that first movie. But for The Exorcist's sake, with Ellen Burst's character, she really didn't get up to that much. Like, sure, Regan was a handful, but like, I don't really think there was any reason for her to want to continue to research the very thing that caused her so much torment all those years ago. Wouldn't she just want to stay as far away from all that as possible? You know, like, I'm just saying, like, if I had a family member who went through an exorcism, and then we finally got them back and it was like this big traumatic thing, I don't think I'd ever want to know about it ever again. Why is she here? And the only reason for her to be there is for sequel's sake, which I'm going to talk about in a second, but also just for the sheer fact that she was from the original, and people are going to look at her and go, oh, Ellen Burst's character from the original Exorcist film. I definitely need to watch this now. Like, what's the point? You know, like, it's just stupid in my opinion. It really didn't help anything. But now, before I get into my last big point of this video, I just want to give the spoiler warning now. This is where I'm going to be talking about spoilers. I'm going to put a timestamp on screen. If you want to go skip to that, I'll be giving my final review and verdict at that point, because this last point that I want to make is literally the most spoilery thing I have to talk about, and I have to spoil it. Like, I can't not spoil it. There are certain parts in this movie that I just need to spoil, because it's gonna reflect, and you're gonna understand my last point. I'm rambling, I'm sorry, but in short, what I want to say about my last point is that this movie is like a giant middle finger to the original film released in 1973. And I'm going to explain to you why. Like I said before, Ellen Burst is in this movie, and she's playing the exact same mother from the first film. But in this movie, she doesn't have a good relationship with Regan, which if you don't know who Regan is, first off, like, are you even a horror fan if you don't know who Regan is? But whatever. But Regan was the little girl from the first film that got possessed by the demon, and she had to bring the priest in to exorcise her, and Regan wants nothing to do with her mother. She has distanced herself for some reason. They give a reason in the film. I'm trying to remember what it is. I don't remember. They try and give some really stupid reason of why they're disconnected and they no longer are on speaking terms for whatever reason, which is just so dumb, in my opinion, because they're just trying to set up a sequel. But in this movie, we have Ellen Burst's character. She's brought into the fold about like halfway through the movie, and they're trying to deal with these two little exorcised girls, and our dad character and her go to this house where the second family is with her girl, where they've brought her home. And it's in complete disarray. There's chairs all over the place. People are huddled in corners, just like completely traumatized. The dad's in the actual tub, just like sitting there apologizing to God for his sins that he's caused and why he's doing it upon the family, because they're a very religious household. And she goes up to the little girl's room, and of course she's exorcised and she's crazy. And to put it in short, they blind Helen Burst in this movie. The little girl grabs a cross and literally shoves them into her eyes. And the reason why this is very upsetting from a point of view of a fan who actually really likes the first Exorcist movie is that no one likes seeing legacy characters go through hardship. And I'm not just saying that from a point of view of, oh, our legacy characters can never have consequences. Like, that's stupid. In this movie, when she gets blinded, the only reason that happens in the movie is to set up the ending of this movie where Regan inevitably comes back to see her after her accident. There was literally no reason for them to do that. There was literally no reason of them to blind a legacy character like that, because even though, like, she isn't like Laurie Strode or John Connor, but she's still a legacy character because she was from the original film and people like that character, so I'm gonna consider it the same way. So when they blind her, equivalently making her basically useless in this movie, it kind of feels like a middle finger to the people who like the original, because you have this character that everyone loves and then you're just like, yeah, we're gonna bring her into the movie for like maybe half an hour and then we're just gonna blind her. And then she's gone the entire movie. There's literally no point for her to be in this movie besides get blinded and then set up a sequel. I really shouldn't be getting nearly as upset as I should be when it comes to this movie and this point of the movie, but it's just a giant fuck you moment. Like, it really feels like they just didn't care and they were like, well, how do we set up a sequel to a movie that's already mid and doesn't really have a whole lot going for it, and how we can make it special? And they're like, well, we should bring in Regan, and we should bring in the original mom. And they're like, that's a great idea, but how do we do that in an original and thought-provoking way? And they're like, oh, what if we blind her, and then Regan has to help her throughout the second movie, and then that's the second movie, and it's like, okay, like, there were other ways that you could have done this, you know what I mean? Like, there are other ways that you could have set up a sequel, which is already stupid on its own. What is the point? Like, honestly, it just feels so damn unnecessary. It doesn't feel like it's earned at all. David Gordon Green has done this before, too, with Halloween. Remember in Halloween Ends? One of my biggest plot points in that movie that I absolutely hated is how they disrespected the character of Michael Myers. And they're doing it again with another character. No audience member wants to see their main characters go throughout that, especially if they've gone through a first film where they've gone through so much torment and just so much just awful shit. No one wants to see a character get blinded like that in like the first half an hour. It's stupid. But before I ramble on some more, I'm honestly just gonna give my verdict for this movie. No one's probably gonna watch this movie. This movie came out 2 weeks ago and I missed it, but whatever. But I'm gonna give this movie a 5 out of 10, you know? I don't think it's nearly as bad as some of the people who are reviewing it. Some people are calling it like the frickin' Antichrist, like, oh my god, it's a 2 out of 10, it's so bad. I'm like, it's not that bad. There's some solid acting in it. There's solid ideas, even though they do literally nothing with it. The tone seems consistent with the original film, but there's just so much less style, and it feels so fucking unnecessary. There's no reason for this movie to exist, and they take a giant... No, actually, I'm not going to say that on YouTube, but they just give the middle finger to the original film and the fans of the original film, and I didn't like that. I thought it was stupid, and I did not enjoy it at all. I'm gonna stop talking about this movie now because I have other better things to do than talk about this movie. But if you like this video, please like and subscribe down below for more content on the channel coming pretty damn soon, and I'm gonna see y'all in the next one. See ya.